How much of this you think Tim Walz knew is happening?
Oh, he's known about it. That's why he's saying fraud's been happening for years. He literally knows that fraud has been happening. Like, he is so stupid. Like, he knows it's happening. If someone's stealing money from me, and if I'm giving them money and they're going to do something with it, what am I going to do? I'm going to stop giving them money. He's enabled and continued to let this fraud happen. And so is everybody else inside of that Capitol building, because they're the ones writing the checks.
Yeah, Rob, is this the clip? Because this kind of brings me to a complete different thing that I'd like some people to look into. Rob, is this him talking about that he knows fraud is happening?
In 2019, yep.
This is a 2019 clip.
Yep.
Okay, go for it. 6 years ago.
I want to be clear that the Legislative Audit Report gave us a clear path. It told us that we could do better, and just like Minlar's, I now own that, and I own the fix for that. But I do want to be clear, before we take some other questions on this, that what needs to stop is a demonization of one community involved in this. What needs to stop is an absolutely unproven storyline that continues to resurface on the House floor, that this money went to terrorists and it's targeted at one group of our citizens here, of Minnesotans. We'll own that this thing needs to be fixed. We'll own that there were problems in this. We will own that there are fixes, and we think we proposed the right amount, but we're open to that to try and close this. But again, I am not going to allow folks to use this as a hammer against a group of people.
Okay, so he's not going to allow to use this as a hammer. Okay, so then the next question is, how do you think he benefit from it? Not just election-wise, but you think he benefit from it financially? How do you think he benefit from it?
There has to be some sort of incentive where he's benefiting from it, whether it be he's actually receiving money or obviously the votes, but he has to have some sort of incentive to allow this to happen. Maybe he's getting somebody else rich, and then he's then getting money to funnel for his next campaign, whatnot. That's kind of how I even had a mayor in California tell me once that that's why there's so many nonprofits, is because they create these nonprofits, and that money can go back to funneling somebody else's campaign. But so Tim Walz, he's probably receiving some sort of benefits. I know he's been to China a lot, Tim Walz. He's actually not even from Minnesota. He was born in Nebraska. I don't even know if he owns a home in Minnesota. Like, I don't think he actually physically owns a home in Minnesota. He lives in the governor's mansion, but lots of really strange things underneath Tim Walz. And why would it take, if you're giving somebody millions of dollars and you notice that millions of dollars are going to places where they shouldn't be, how many years do you think it would take for you to solve that issue?
It would 6 months, 3 to 6 months.
Yeah.
You'd put the entire team behind it because you want to be able to gain credibility that we're addressing this issue and it cannot continue.
So he's had 6 years. And then 2023, he said, it's either 2023, I think he said, we're going to give them a raise. We're going to give the child care a raise in Minnesota.
Yeah, this is a little weird because the one thing, when Kamala Harris was choosing the VP, and, is it going to be Newsom? Newsom rejected it. Is it going to be Josh Shapiro? They're not comfortable that he was Jewish and that, he had some skeletons in a closet from a previous friend that he protected. They claimed that was the reason, right? And Josh is not a fan of Kamala Harris. Nobody in a million years thought it was going to be a guy named Tim Walz. But here's what happened, Rob, if you want to pull this up. When they announced Tim Walz, what's weird is 24 hours after announcing Tim Walz, a record-breaking $36 million went into the campaign. It was a record-breaking thing that happened.
Whoa.
I don't know if you knew this or not. Harris's campaign raises $36 million in 24 hours after announcing Walz as running mate. Where that money came from, of course, someone can investigate this. And they said this was a record-breaking number. Who is Tim Walz? It's not like it's a massive name. Where's that money coming from? We don't know who this individual was to be able to get this kind of money, but it gets people to question where this money came from.
Yeah, 100%. That kind of goes back to my point that they'll start these organizations or start these daycares, and then they can just get all this money tax-free, and then they can funnel it wherever they want.
Yeah, so that is the part where, how is he winning from doing this? Then there's also some people that were speculating, saying, Tim Walz getting in. This is such a big issue nationwide with Democrats in different places. I even saw one that said Pennsylvania is also another place they're looking into. If this becomes a national thing on the Democratic side for fraud, this is not just bad for Tim Walz. This is bad for everybody. Yesterday, Scott Jennings on CNN, I don't know if you saw this exchange between Scott Jennings and Dear Abby.
Yeah.
Did you see that exchange, Rob? If you want to play this clip. It was Scott doing his typical thing, which is, destroying everybody on that show, and, the CEO of CNN. Rob, if you want to play this clip real quick, watch this exchange, folks.
Why is it that right now everything seems to be about whether or not the people involved here are Somali, even though one of the biggest people who were involved in one of these frauds was not Somali at all? She was a white woman. So respond to that.
Doesn't that disprove everything he just argued?
Well,
they're obviously rounding up
nobody.
They're rounding up everybody who is involved in fraud.
No, they're not rounding up everybody. They're all talking about Somalis. That's the point.
I want them to round up anyone who is involved in defrauding American taxpayers of what apparently amounts to $9 billion in a very, very small state. Somali, whether they're citizens, immigrants, white, I don't care.
You don't care if they target one community?
I want the fraud to stop.
But do you support the targeting of this one community or not?
I support the
you
targeting.
think that's the right thing to do?
I support the targeting of people engaged in fraud.
But do you support the targeting of the Somali American community as directed by the president?
If they are engaged in
based on their
fraud,
ethnicity.
That's not what he said.
That's it.
That is precisely what he said.
If data says it's the case, who cares? Go keep playing it.
Should that make them immune?
That's a straw man argument.
No.
Just answer the question.
I did.
Should we
I want
target
anyone
people
involved in
based on
fraud
their
to be targeted. Anyone involved in fraud.
But not based on their ethnicity.
I want it based on whether they're involved in fraud.
Is it really so hard to answer that question?
Yes.
I want it.
Yes.
Is it so hard
the only
to sit there and say we shouldn't target people based on their ethnicity?
The only criteria I have is fraud.
We shouldn't target people based on their ethnicity? I can say that. Can you say that?
I can say
that.
Everyone
here can say
anyone who's not a deplorable human being can say you shouldn't target people.
Scott Jennings won't say that. Why won't you say that,
Because
Scott?
I don't agree that that's what's happening. I don't agree with your fallacy. I don't agree with your stupid
ad hominem attacks are the
There's another clip than this one,
Scott.
Rob. There's another clip where he is just going at it with Abby. It's an exchange between the two of them. But finally, these types of conversations, is this the one?
I think, no, that's not.
There's one that he's going with Abby back and forth, and it's a very, very strong exchange that they're having. The point is, at this point, is this the one?
This is where they talk about Tim Walz claiming that fraud was a white supremacy.
Yeah, this is the one. Go ahead.
It's Democrats who have put Somali diaspora in Minneapolis at the center of their party and their state's politics. It's a small portion of the population. There is a bunch of fraud that goes on. And even Tim Walz has claimed that any investigation of this fraud is akin to white supremacy,
No,
which is
he
a
hasn't.
ridiculous
He has not
allegation.
claimed that. He has not said that.
He has said that.
He has not said that.
This is what happens when your own federal government wages war against you. This is what happens when they target communities for their own benefit. This is what happens when they scapegoat. And this is what happens when they no longer hide the idea of white supremacy, the idea of white supremacy, the idea of white supremacy, the idea of white supremacy.
See, this is why you can't do things like that today. There's a 17-year-old kid that's a great editor that knows how to take it, find it, and he has all the time in the world, dear Abby. You can't say stuff like that with CNN anymore. You can't. Someone like a 23-year-old Nick Shirley that's fearless with courage is going to come and say, let me investigate this a little bit more if this is true or not, if he ever said this or not. Go ahead.
Yeah, Tim Walz said it himself.
Yeah.
He called me and everybody else a white supremacist.
Yeah.
For simply just caring about fraud.
Yeah.
And that's why he's allowed fraud to happen, because he's so scared of being called a racist, be called an Islamophobe, and for saying things for what they are. That fraud is fraud, and it's a fact that the Somali population inside Minnesota are committing 89% of the fraud.
89% of the fraud in Minnesota is coming from Somalians.
Yes.
I mean, what does that do to you?
I'm Nick Shirley, and you guys can find me here on Connect. Go ahead and ask me any questions, whether it be about politics, about what I believe, or where I think the future of the country will be going, or just, quite frankly, anything. You can ask me here on Connect. I really appreciate all your support, and I can't wait to answer your questions.
If you enjoyed this video, you want to watch more videos like this, click here. And if you want to watch the entire podcast, click here.